Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the first in a series of videos that I'm going to be calling Bookshelf Essentials History Department. So these are books that I think are essential history books, and this is a little nod to the Historathon people, so the hosts of the Historathon and Vin at Revenant Reads, who started the Historathon. Thanks to being involved in the Historathon, I got back into reading history books, and I really value the history books that I studied when I did my degree. And I thought it'd be really nice to highlight some particular history books that made an impact on me, or I think could make an impact on you. And I'm going to pick 20 history books, 20 bookshelf essentials, historical analytical books. So I'm actually going to start with my favourite one, and that is Christopher Hill's The World Turned Upside Down. So, and then it's got subtitled Radical Ideas During the English Revolution. So, I'll just tell you something about Christopher Hill first. Christopher Hill was a Marxist historian. He said before that he became Marxist because he went to Germany during the in 1931, sorry, during the 30s. It was during the 30s. He went to Germany, and he saw the rise of Nazism, and it really did sort of curb his political leanings, and he got more radical because of that. But his work as a historian, I think is really, really important. He was born in 1912, and he lived until the age of 91 and died in 2003. And he left a huge body of work, and he tried to fight against the fascists in the Spanish Civil War, but his request was rejected. And in the 60s, he became a master of Balliol College, which is part of the Oxford University. So he did that for 13 years. So he had a very authoritative role in Oxford University, which is pretty big standing, a big status there, out of respect for his work and all that. Yeah, he's one of my favourite historians. I think this book is amazing, because the reason why I think this book is amazing is that there are tons and tons of books about the English Civil War, about the what's sometimes called the English Revolution, and there is lots of books that analyse the battles or analyse the events of the English Civil War, and this book does have its roots in those things. But what Christopher Hill does in this book is that he really explores some of the radical ideas that were happening in the 1640s, when the country was in absolute turmoil. And obviously in 1649 it led to the parliamentarians winning, and King Charles I's head was cut off, and the UK didn't have a monarchy for about 11 years. So yeah, it's a very significant thing, because it had a far-reaching effect, because even when Charles II came back and there was the restoration of the monarchy, it was a different kind of monarchy. And whereas before it was all about the divine rule of kings, divine right of kings, after that Parliament had a much more decisive role in government, and actually the monarchy became less and less significant as a political force, and it doesn't have a political role really now. It's all about Parliament, and obviously it's much more democratic because of that. But what happened in the 1640s started all that off. So it's a really interesting period, and this book is just a very special book, because it covers all of the different types of radicals that were around at the time. So obviously it kind of sets the scene with some of the early chapters, with some of the significant grievances that were against the king, but it talks about the levelers and different factions within the levelers as well. And it talks about the seekers and the ranters. They were more extreme than the levelers. And it talks about the Quakers as well. So the Quakers were an important part of the radical ideas that were happening in this time as well. Talks about the role of the Bible in all of this, because I know, for example, the ranters were very religious. I mean, most people were, to be fair. I mean, the levelers were as well, but not quite as they didn't wear the they didn't sort of what's the right word to way of saying it? They didn't put the Bible across their banners, you know, in the same way. And then even the mechanical preachers and a new kind of philosophy that they called the mechanical philosophy. That was also another really interesting radical thing that was happening in the 1640s as well. And then the book ends with all of these radical ideas culminating in the end of this sort of period, if you like, and Charles II coming back, not Charles, yeah, Charles II restoring the monarchy. So yeah, it's a really, really brilliant book, and I'll just read out the part of the introduction so you can get a sense of the way that Christopher Hill approaches this. Popular revolt was for many centuries an essential feature of the English tradition, and the middle decades of the 17th century saw the greatest upheaval that has yet occurred in Britain. The present book does not attempt to tell again the story of how the army of the Long Parliament overcame Charles I and his supporters, executed the king and established a short-lived republic. Although there were considerable popular support for Parliament in the 1640s, the long-term consequences of the revolution were all to the advantage of the gentry and merchants, not of the lower 50% of the population, on whom I tried to focus attention. This book deals with what, from one point of view, are subsidiary episodes and ideas in the English Revolution, the attempts of various groups of the common people to impose their own solutions to the problems of their time, in opposition to the wishes of their betters who had called them into political action. The reader who wishes to restore his perspective might, with advantage, read the valuable book recently published by Professor Underdown. This deals with almost exactly the same period as I do, but from an entirely different angle. His is from the view of the top from Whitehall, mine's the worm's eye view. His index and mine contain totally different lists of names. The revolt within the revolution, which is my subject, took many forms, some better known than others. Groups like the Levellers and the Diggers, the Diggers as well, I didn't mention them, and Fifth Monarchists offered new political solutions. And in the case of the Diggers, new economic solutions too. The various sects, the Baptists, the Quakers, the Muggletonians, offered new religious solutions, and other groups asked sceptical questions about all the institutions and beliefs of their society, the Seekers, the Ranters, and the Diggers. Indeed, it's perhaps misleading to differentiate too sharply between politics, religion, and general scepticism. We know as a result of hindsight that some groups, the Baptists and the Quakers, will survive as a religious sect, and most of the others will disappear. In consequence, we unconsciously tend to impose too clear outlines on the early history of English sects to read back later beliefs into the 1640s and 50s. One of the aims of this book will be to suggest that in this period, things were much more blurred. From, say, 1645 to 1653, there was a great overturning, a questioning, a revaluing of everything in England. Old institutions, old beliefs, old values came into question, and men moved easily from one critical group to another, and the Quaker of the early 1650s had far more in common with a leveller, a digger or a ranter than with a modern member of the Society of Friends. So there we are. The World Turned Upside Down, written by Christopher Hill. Seek it out if you're curious. Thanks a lot for watching. That was the first episode of my historical Bookshelf Essentials series. Stay curious.